Today we are going to turbocharge your learning with the 4 stages of learning to drive. And no, it's not just mumbo jumbo, this is the GPS to passing your driving test. Okay, I'm in, but how can these stages help me pass my driving test? As the saying goes, knowledge is power. This means if you understand something, it's going to be far easier to master. And the exact same applies to learning to drive. If you want to tame the beast, you've got to understand the beast. And one of the first hurdles I have to deal with anytime I get a new learner, when I'm teaching someone to drive, is mistakes. They don't want to make any mistakes. And that's our biggest worry when we start learning to drive. I'm going to make mistakes. People just naturally don't want to make mistakes. They don't want to look stupid. They don't want to feel silly. It's embarrassing. In fact, we hate it, or I know I do. But unfortunately, that is the #1 rule of learning to drive. You need to think of your driving lessons as a mistake marathon. Without making mistakes, we aren't learning anything. It's like that saying goes, you learn far more from your defeats than you do your victories. Well, your driving lessons are the same. You just make one mistake after the other, after the other, after the other, and we just go around trying to fix them one after another until eventually you stop making them. And when you stop making any mistakes, guess what? You don't need driving lessons anymore. And that means, drum roll please, you guessed it, you're ready for your driving test. So back to your question, Learnerly, how do these 4 stages help us learn to drive and pass our test faster? And there's 4 main points here. The first one is when we understand these 4 stages, we become more realistic about our driving. We get more realistic expectations with our driving lessons, how long it's going to take us to pass, how do we know when we're test ready, are we getting value for money, which in turn will reduce the pressure that we're putting on ourselves during our driving lessons. And hopefully it's going to help us with that, oh my God, I must pass my driving test tomorrow, and oh my God, why did I make that mistake? And help us accept and expect that we are going to make mistakes, and we're going to make lots of them, and that's okay. Seriously, put a green light in the comments if you've experienced any of this in your driving lessons. Have you experienced any of the, oh my God, I made a mistake, or the, oh my God, I need to pass my test tomorrow? Let me know. So by reducing the pressure, we're also going to reduce the anxiety of, oh my God, are we doing this right? Because you're going to have a far clearer understanding of the process of learning to drive, and you're going to see the process of where you started and where you're going to finish. The other massive winner of this is going to help us keep track of our progress, because you're going to clearly know what stage in the learning of process you are, and you're going to completely understand how far you are from being test ready. And finally, it's going to help you be more patient. You're going to start to understand, why am I making that mistake again and again and again and again and again and again and again. No, but seriously, in order to tame the beast, you need to understand the beast. Okay, so stage 1, unconscious incompetence. You're making mistakes. You've no idea what they are. You've no idea when you're making them. It's like being in a foreign country and not knowing the language. You've no idea what's going on. This is the time you need your driving instructor to point them out and say, hey dude, you're doing that mistake. Hey Dorothy, there's a curb there. Very common at the beginning of learning to drive. And again, very common anytime we're starting a new subject, roundabouts, junctions, traffic lights, crossroads, or a new skill, clutch control, anything like that. This is when you're going to start at stage 1, which makes sense really, it's the beginning. So we've talked before about the 4 stages of driving, haven't we?
Yeah.
So we've just done some reverse way parking.
Yeah.
What happened? Did you make a mistake at all?
Yes.
Go on, what did you do?
So I think the first time I didn't check my blind spots.
You weren't checking your blind spot on the right side before we moved off, were you?
Yeah.
Okay. What was the other issue?
Going too fast.
We were going a bit too fast. So that's the first stage, that's unconscious incompetence, okay?
Yeah.
So that's essentially, you've made the mistake, and did you realise you've made the mistakes?
No.
No. Then we have stage 2, consciously incompetent. This means you still can't do it, but at least now you know you can't do it. So you're still making the mistakes, you realise now that you're making the mistakes, but you are still actually making the mistakes. A bit like knowing the language, but not being able to quite get the pronunciation just right just yet. Imagine like Joey speaking French.
Okay, so repeat after me. Je
m'appelle.
m'appelle. Great. Okay, faster. Je m'appelle. Je m'appelle.
Me poupou.
A bit like when your driving instructor's been banging on at you for days and days to check the damn mirrors. And then that one day just happens where you're like, ta-da! And you still don't check the mirrors, but at least you turn around to the driving instructor and say, oops, I forgot to check my mirror. And the driving instructor has a little tear in their eye and says no, but very well done for realising it.
So I didn't fix it, but I realised.
So this is the second try of a reverse bay parking with Dan, and I'm just asking him now, what have you forgotten to do again there, Dan? And he's realised I forgot to check my blind spot. And this stage is called consciously competent. I like to call it consciously aware. This is the stage where you start doing things right, but you are so focused you could see the sweat beading down your face. This is when you're speaking the foreign language, but you still really have to think about what you say before it comes out your mouth. Something I've always struggled with actually, which is why I often get myself in a lot of trouble. But hey, nobody's perfect. So at this stage, you are actually checking your mirrors, but you are having to focus on checking those mirrors like your life depends on it. Like walking across that tightrope, and you know if you lose focus for just a second, everything's gonna come crashing down. Or maybe not everything, maybe just you. You focused on it quite hard. The sweat was beading, wasn't it? You can still see it on your forehead now, just kidding. The sweat was beading, but you didn't do it. Yeah, you did it perfectly. Great. So we reached stage 3, which you could call conscious competence. You're focused on it, you're doing it, but you've really, really got to squeeze that brain hard to make sure that you don't do it. And on to the final stage, unconscious competence, or as I like to say, unconscious awareness. And this is where you have nailed it. It is now as effortless as not breathing. It is now as effortless as breathing. You are completely fluent at the language. Your instructor is now sitting there very, very bored, twiddling their thumbs, thinking, what the hell do I do? I better start looking for a new student. And when you get to this stage with all of the driving syllabus, this is when, yes, you guessed it, you are now driving test ready. You need to get that test booked, get it sat, because you are an independent driver, baby. If you want a copy of the driving syllabus, you can get one in the links below. Alternatively, if you'd like a nice, pretty, coloured version like this, with all the bells and whistles and everything else you need in order to pass your driving test, have a look at my driving course in the description below, or around there somewhere as well. Or if you want to just help support my fantastical videos and me making more content, again, feel free to buy the course that way as well. And the course is, of course, less than the cost of one driving lesson. Now, the driving syllabus includes everything you need in order to pass your driving test. Now, the beauty of this is you can use it with fam, you can use it with parents, you can use it with best mates that are teaching you to drive, or you can use it with your driving instructor. You can use it with everyone. And it's a very, very useful tool to keep a track of where the hell you are in each individual topic. It's all well and good saying I could drive one day, but can you do each topic is a little bit different. So all you got to do is get this printed, get yourself a pencil or a pen, and put yourself a 1 to 4 in each of the boxes. 1 being we're still incompetent, we aren't recognizing the mistakes. 4 being we're completely independent, we don't even think about them anymore, we just do. And these, of course, can be changed over time and should be changed over time in each subject. And this, of course, doesn't mean driving for 5 minutes down a road and saying, oh, that's a 4. This means driving perfectly within that subject for 3 or 4 hours before giving yourself a 4 out of 4. Be realistic with yourself is my biggest bit of advice. You're only cheating yourself. The examiner's going to see straight through it in the end. Now, this was obviously a very sped up version. Each skill can take absolutely hours to learn, and that's why learning to drive takes so long. So there we go. You now know why learning to drive takes so long and why we make the same mistakes again and again. And hopefully you can now identify where you are in your learning journey and how close you are to being test ready. If you've enjoyed this, wait till you see what's coming next. But you are going to miss it unless you get that notification bell pressed, and it ain't going to press itself. If you have any recent driving sagas, I would love to hear about them in the comments below. So get those in there and let's keep this community cruising. And again, of course, don't forget to check my online driving course rammed with everything you need to pass your driving test for the cost of 1 driving lesson. No brainer. And if you're looking for more information about how to assess your own driving faults, how to assess driving mistakes, think like an examiner does, have a look at this next video.